My name is David Dawson, and in 2007, I was nearly burned to death in Iraq. I was working for a DoD contractor on the Iraq reconstruction program. We were rebuilding most of the major infrastructure in the country. I think it was a Friday. I was getting up to go shower and get ready to go get lunch with my father, who was actually there taking the position that I was in because I was going to be coming home. I remember kind of vaguely getting into the shower, and really the next thing that I remembered was waking up on the floor of the shower. I do have a memory of looking down and seeing the skin falling off of my legs, crawling out of the shower because I couldn't stand up at that point. I don't really remember anything very clearly. I was actually hit by water that was nearly boiling at 200 degrees, as well as steam, which caused me to go unconscious. I do know that once they got me to the cache that I was, I'm sure, given pain medication, but also given another medication that induces amnesia. So a lot of the events, both prior to and then immediately after, I don't remember really anything until I woke up in Germany. About 70% of my body was injured, bandaged head to toe, and by the time that they were done with the procedures to graft everything that had, all the skin that had been destroyed, that I was about 98% injured. A lot of the treatment I just don't recall because I was in a medically induced coma for either 2 or 3 weeks. There are a lot of things that are very fuzzy. I couldn't tell you if I dreamt them or if they really happened. When I got back to the United States, I didn't look really like myself. I had skin grafts on more than half of my body, and the other part of my body that hadn't been burned had been harvested, so I was bright red everywhere. My kids were coming to see me, my wife was coming to see me. When they came into the room, it was almost like they didn't recognize their dad. When I came to Klein Frank, I was at a point in my recovery where I didn't remember most of what had happened. I was in a compression suit designed to help stop scar tissue from growing. The reports that I was getting back from people who were still in the green zone was that the water was still overly hot. And so really my intention was to see if there was anything that I could do about making sure that it got fixed so that nobody else had to be in the situation that I was in at that time. What I know today about why I got burned was a failure in the plumbing system caused by just negligence of maintenance of the system. The company that was in charge of maintaining the housing was Fluor Intercontinental. They're based out of Dallas, Texas. They're a very large international company. I was scared to go to trial. That whole process made me very nervous. Just going back through all of the events that had happened, and by the time we went to trial, I knew a lot more about not only what had happened to me, but what the situation was that led to my injuries. Kind of as things moved on, I started to realize that we were going to have the Iraqis that worked with the coalition there as a part of the investigation. I had no idea how we would be able to move forward, communicating back and forth and trying to find out what had happened in Iraq, in the green zone, in a protected compound. Just finding the person to depose in Iraq was a monumental feat in and of itself. Beth ended up doing, I think that was the first deposition from the country of Iraq ever to make it into the U.S. court system. Ultimately at trial, to have one of the video depositions in the trial, just astonishing to me. I felt very much like I could trust Beth with whatever needed to be done. I had been through the depositions. I kind of knew what was going to be asked. Both Beth and Carrie had done a great job of preparing me, knowing what to do and when things were going to happen and where we needed to be. At trial, Carrie was with my wife and I full time, which was an enormous help just getting through the process. Just my level of confidence in the two of them meant that I didn't have to worry about it day to day. My case and my family were in good hands. There were, parts of the trial that I was glad that I ended up not being there for. I was actually asked to leave the courtroom when the primary consulting doctor who was in charge of the medical team in Germany gave his testimony. There were photos shown of of my injuries prior to me waking up that kind of put me back into those places, which was very difficult for me. Beth started discussing some of the things that had come out in the medical records. That was a moment where you could almost see the jury try to catch their breath from some of the things that had been stated in the evidence. All of the information for the maintenance of the compound that I lived in was missing for, I believe it was 3 months prior and 3 months following my injury. Having worked there and understanding the amount of scrutiny and the amount of backup that we had to do of our data, it was astonishing to me that it was missing, because that's virtually impossible to have had happen. I think there was a point in the trial when, in my mind, that there was no way that the jury couldn't find in our favor. When they started going through what their decisions were, it was this immense feeling of relief. It was overwhelming to hear the value that the jury had placed on what I had been through, what my family had been through, what my kids had been through. By the time we got about halfway through, I lost track of what the numbers were adding up to. $18.78 million for all of the different things that the jury had to award. And that felt really good after, well, at that point, what was it, 4 years of not only being injured, but trying to figure out what had actually happened. It was amazing. It couldn't have possibly been a better experience all the way through. The work that the firm has done has been exemplary, and in addition to a very positive outcome of the case, I feel like we're walking away from the last 5 years with 2 friends that we'll have for the rest of our lives. I don't know how I would have managed just my life without having Beth and Carrie here to take care of this whole process. One of the things that I had decided very early on was that I wanted to give some of the money from the settlement to a foundation that would help both the burn victims and their families. The change for the better is going to be that I know that I can take care of my family and my kids financially for the rest of their lives. The outcome of this whole process is just going to make it a lot easier for us to have the kind of relationship that we really want to have with the kids. The job that Klein Frank, both Beth and Carrie, did for me and for my family, I don't know if I can say enough good things about it. Just my level of confidence in the 2 of them meant that I didn't have to worry about it day to day. That I knew that my case and my family were in good hands. Since the trial and since my treatment, I've been told that the human body can't endure anything that's more painful than being burned. Some of what I remember may just be my body not allowing me to remember things that I probably shouldn't remember anyway. When I look at my body now, it just kind of is a new normal. And this is my new normal. There are times when it's hard, when it's something that I have to wake up and figure out how to deal with, for the day. But there are things that are pretty minor by comparison to the fact that my family was told I had a negative 11% chance of survival. Still being here and getting to see my kids and getting to go about my day and being a part of the living is something that I try to focus on more often than what my arms and legs and back might look like. Sometimes bad things or difficult things have very positive outcomes in people's lives. And this was certainly one of those times.